So welcome to Independent Thoughts once again. It's Justin Roberge here. Some of you have already been listening to this podcast, which I record with this little mamma jamma over here, which we're going to do at the same time. So we're doing a 2-for-1 package deal. You are getting the live exclusive, and then I'm going to edit this afterwards for the podcast to be downloaded in a matter of days. So I guess the big thing we got to talk about, since we're talking independent thoughts, and I guess in the wild world of things, that's gonna focus heavily on the big New Japan show from this past Sunday evening, Strong Style Evolved, which I'm happy to say was a live show from New Japan that I was able to watch at a reasonable hour, which happens extremely rarely. So 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we tuned in and we caught the show. Great show, top to bottom. I know there's a lot of flack going around from those that might be a bit, dare I say, uninitiated as far as New Japan goes, because New Japan, when it's not a huge show, say like a Wrestle Kingdom or even the G1 Finals or the G1 Classic, really, which is one of those rare tours where singles matches are heavily focused. The thing about New Japan to remember is singles matches are not a primary focus of New Japan on all of their shows. They are a focus in the sense that usually when there is a singles match, it actually means something. And a lot of the time, if there's a singles match, it's going to be for a championship title. This was pretty much the rule again, as we saw just a couple of singles matches on the cards. If I'm not mistaken, we had the United States Heavyweight Championship between Jay White and Hangman Page, and we saw what was originally supposed to be the special attraction match of Jushin Liger against Rey Mysterio, which ended up being Jushin Liger against Will Ospreay, which I'm perfectly fine with. Not that I have any ill will towards Rey Mysterio, but if the man is injured, the man cannot compete. That is pure and simple. That is how it is. I think, again, top to bottom, via all the tag matches that were on the show, it didn't bother me in the least. My buddy Brian actually thought it was a bit different because he hadn't really seen a whole lot of New Japan up until this point, and a lot of when we do has usually been the Wrestle Kingdom shows, or more importantly, a match here or there. You know, a lot of the free matches that New Japan puts on YouTube that I highly recommend you check out if you haven't. So seeing a show, let's call it a regular New Japan show, top to bottom, full of its usual tag match format, may be a bit odd to those that are new to New Japan. Don't let it make you think that it's not that great, because what New Japan does very well is they're able to tell those proper stories through their tag matches. Juice Robinson and David Finlay getting a pinfall was important for the reasons that they're both trying to make their way up the ranks, and by getting pinfalls over an actual champion, that means something. Usually when you pin a champion or defeat a champion in a tag match, whether it be a tag, a 6-man, an 8-man, a 10-man, New Japan is common to do all of those, all of the above. If you get a victory over a champion, that basically puts you in the front of the line for that particular guy's championship, and this was no exception. So top to bottom, I think the show was fantastic. Obviously, the heavy focus of the show, the whole reason for the show, really, the main event. I mean, the show is usually about the main event, and if you don't believe that, well, I don't know what to tell you. The Young Bucks against Kenny and Kota Ibushi was, I think, the match that we got was everything we expected it to be and more, if I can go on a limb and say that. It was over 35 minutes, which it's a main event match, regardless of whether it's a tag match or not. Usually those main events are going to be lengthy as opposed to the rest of the card. This was no exception. I think they told a fantastic story. I was glued to the screen, regardless of how late it was, because I believe the show concluded somewhere around midnight, if not just after that, and I was hooked. Regardless of how tired I was from the day that I'd had, I was still hooked. And I believe a lot of you, from what I'm reading, at least on Twitter and whatnot, a lot of you share the same sentiment. You guys were just as hooked as I was, so that's a good sign. That means the guys definitely did what they set out to do, And more interestingly enough, this storyline is going to continue forwards. For anybody who saw the latest episode of Being the Lead, I believe that's episode 98 that just got put out yesterday. Again, the storyline continues forward. I will say one thing. These guys, the whole group of them, are doing a fantastic job in this day and age of furthering storylines, furthering their characters and their builds all by themselves. They're not relying on a promotion to tell them what to do or how to do it with scripts and all that other jazz that we tend to see elsewhere. These guys are going about doing it themselves, promoting it themselves through YouTube, the world of social media, and they just hit 200,000 subscribers, so big thumbs up for that one. You know, I'm excited over just getting past 500 Twitter followers this past weekend, and now I looked and I'm over 600. It's like, what the hell happened? Hey, thank you. Don't stop, by all means. You know, certainly in about a year or so or more, I'd like to see another 0 on the end of that, but beggars can't be choosers, man. We're working at it day by day, little by little, working our way there. And I thank you if you are following me already. And if by chance you eventually follow me and you come back and find this video, well, thank you for what you did in the future, I guess. So with Strong Style Evolved done, mind you, they did make a couple of announcements, so we might as well address those before I get to the next thing. So, for the fans of the United Kingdom, don't feel left out, because New Japan is not leaving you hanging either. Strong Style Evolved is coming to the United Kingdom. They will do so with a pair of shows. Milton Keynes on June 30th, Manchester on July 1st, and for the good folks in California who made that an amazing show, packed the house at the Walter Pyramid with over 5,000 in attendance, New Japan decided to double down, and they're going back to San Francisco this time at the Cow Palace. I didn't even know that building was still standing, let alone that they're going to be doing that show with a possible attendance of around 10,000. They're going to be doing that for their G1 special on July 7th. That will take place shortly before the G1 Climax tournament begins. I can't believe it's March. I'm already talking about the G1 Climax. It's the 2-3 weeks of wrestling where New Japan does about 3 shows a week, and they're all awesome, and every single match means something, and you can't miss it. I should already start sleeping now to prepare myself for the amount of sleep loss I'm going to endure once again this summer, just like I did last summer, just like I did the summer before that and the summer before that. Actually, no, the 2015 was a lie because New Japan World wasn't around at that time. So the last 2 summers, I lost a lot of sleep. This one will be no exception. And if you're as diehard a New Japan fan as I claim to be, you will probably suffer just as much sleep deprivation as I have, and I will. Joy. But that's the things we do for wrestling, my friends. These are the trials and tribulations that we endure for the art form and the sport that we love. Moving on. Next big show, since we just came out of Strong Style Evolved, is Sakura Genesis 2018. That takes place this Sunday, April 1st. And that will be headlined by a match that I'm very much looking to. Where my boy, my amigo, the guy, he's if someone had to ask me tomorrow, who is your favorite wrestler on the planet right now, I could easily tell them that my favorite wrestler on the planet right now, and has been for over a year plus right now, is Zack Sabre Jr. And that chap challenges Kazuchika Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship on April 1st. You better goddamn believe that I am watching that show live. I am looking forward to that show. And if I'm not mistaken, Hangman Page is not getting his title shot yet. I'm sure Hangman Page is going to get another shot. I don't think we've seen the last of Hangman Page as far as the IWGP title picture goes, but Hangman Page is going to be busy teaming with Cody to take on the Golden Lovers in another tag match that should prove interesting. And speaking of awkward tag matches, the team of the Young Bucks are going to be taking on their Bullet Club cohorts, Chase Owens and Yujiro Takahashi, which I believe is going to be the opening match for that card, at least the way that New Japan has worded it so far. And then speaking of tag matches, I think the Never 6-man open weight tag titles are on the line. Bad Luck Fale and the Gorillas of Destiny from Bullet Club are defending against Taguchi Japan. Ryusuke Taguchi, Toby Makabe, and Michael Elgin. And then the IWGP Junior Heavyweight titles are on the line. Did I just break something? Yeah, I probably did. No, well. Technical difficulties. Oh, it's my headset. Shit. Oh, well. Oh, well. No worries. If I break it, I break it. If he dies, he dies. So, before I was so rudely interrupted by gravity and things that I own, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight titles will be on the line. Good segue, by the way. Will be on the line in a three-way match where the Suzuki-Gun tandem of El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru will take on Roppongi 3K, the former champions and previous champions from LIJ, Bushi, and Hiromu Takahashi, the Ticking Time Bomb. And I think rounding out the card... Oh, yes, after the Ospreay Liger match, Ospreay put out a challenge to Rey Mysterio for some time this year, since Rey had claimed that he will wrestle for New Japan at some point this year. And Ospreay said, how about Ospreay versus Mysterio, which the crowd definitely enjoyed, except for maybe Marty Scurll, who then jumped Ospreay from behind, and will now challenge Will Ospreay for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship once more, as that title seems to bounce back between the two of them. They're going to go at it again one-on-one on April 1st at Sakura Genesis. I mentioned earlier, when I was talking about a lot of the free matches that New Japan puts out on YouTube, they just put out a match for free, which I highly recommend you go and check out. And there's a reason why there's a few reasons why I'm suggesting you check this one out. This match in particular is the main event of Sakura Genesis 2017, where the winner of that New Japan Cup, Katsuyori Shibata, probably one of my favorite Japanese talents, challenged Kazuchika Okada, what are the odds, for that heavyweight championship. Obviously, Okada is champion right now, so spoiler alert, you can imagine who won. That seems to be a trend with the New Japan Cup. A lot of times, I think, out of all the times they've ever done the New Japan Cup since, 2005, I think the challenger has only won the title, 3 times. So, the odds are not in ZSJ's favor, but I refuse to be denied. I believe that I think he might pull it off. That would be amazing if he pulls that off. By submission, no less. Off a guy who's had 10... Oh, this is going to be his 11th title defense, wouldn't it? If this... which means he's going to either tie or beat Hiroshi Tanahashi's record. Shit. Oh. The odds are really not in ZSJ's favor because I kind of feel that that's the way they're going to go. But that's fine. That's fine. I'm still going to stand by him. I still hope he taps him out with something horrible, just like he did everybody else in the New Japan Cup. But yeah, the free match that I was talking about before I got distracted about my hopes and dreams being possibly dashed on Sunday. It was Shibata against Okada in what was essentially Shibata's last match. He had a very, very bad, I believe, brain injury coming out of this match. He essentially collapsed on the way to the back, and people thought it was storyline. It was not storyline. He legit collapsed on the way to the back and had to be carried in the back and had to go to the hospital and so on and so forth. And that match was essentially the end of his career, although he is teaching. He's the trainer, let's call it that, at the Los Angeles dojo for New Japan. But I highly recommend you go and check out this match. I did so with my father-in-law, who isn't as initiated in New Japan, and as I believe he worded it after we watched the match on YouTube, he says, "See, I need you around to watch this shit, because if I were to just go in blind, I wouldn't know who's who, and I wouldn't know what they're fighting for, and who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, so to speak, and that kind of stuff." I said, it's really not that complicated. That's the thing. New Japan, as far as a wrestling standpoint, it's pretty simple. It's just dudes going in there and busting face. I mean, it's a little bit more elaborate than that. I think I kind of pigeonholed it, but you know what I mean. And watching that match kind of furthers more to my point of dudes smashing face, because that is essentially what that match was, or more so Shibata smashing arm, but I don't want to spoil it too much for you, so definitely go check that out if you can. So, in moving away from New Japan, because I know I talked about them for about 15 minutes, there are so many bloody shows taking place this upcoming week. Not just in the New Orleans area, but essentially around the globe, because other promotions like DDT and All Japan are still having big shows of theirs that can be seen through their own streaming services. But at last count, from what I'm aware of, and I could be wrong about this, there are 21 shows taking place over the next week. Between DDT's show on the 31st, which kind of leans into the 1st, so we're going to count that as a week going into the 8th, all the way up until Wrestlemania. 21 friggin' shows. And a lot of them are in New Orleans. If you're going, by chance, if you're watching this and you're going to New Orleans, first of all, know that I'm jealous as hell. Second of all, I'm actually kind of curious to see if there are any independent shows that you are planning to check out that you already have tickets for. Because if you don't already have tickets for them and you're thinking about checking them out, you might already be out of luck, at least from what I've heard. But I guess one of the big highlights of that weekend that is not WrestleMania and that is not NXT TakeOver, because that doesn't really fall into the gamut of what this show is about, would be Ring of Honor's Supercard of Honor XII that takes place on the 7th. To be headlined, of course, by the very, very anticipated one-on-one matchup between Cody Rhodes and Kenny Omega. So much so that I believe that match, even though it's a non-title match, is taking the main event spot. So that gives you an idea as to how anticipated it is. Let's see. Dalton Castle is going to defend the Ring of Honor World title against Marty Scurll. No offense to Dalton, but I kind of wouldn't mind seeing Marty win this one. Although Dalton did just kind of get started as Ring of Honor World Champion, but that has not strayed Ring of Honor from switching the title quickly in the past. For further proof, see Homicide. When Takeshi Morishima beat him on his second defense out of nowhere that no one saw coming. Tag team titles, Briscoes are going to defend against Hiroshi Tanahashi and Jay Lethal in a dream match of sorts. The television title will be on the line. Kenny King's going to defend once again against Silas Young in a last man standing match, if I'm not mistaken. 6-man titles. This one should be in your mandatory car wreck match. New champions SoCal Uncensored, that is Scorpio Sky, Frankie Kazarian, and Christopher Daniels, are going to take on the trio of the Young Bucks and Flip Gordon. Like I said, insert mandatory car wreck match here, and that one will certainly be one. If you don't believe me and you've never seen the Young Bucks in a ladder match, go check out the match they had with the Hardys about a year ago, almost to this date. That one was a mess. In non-car wreck action, Punishment Martinez takes on Tomohiro Ishii in a battle of big dudes that are stiff. Hangman Page will go one-on-one with Kota Ibushi. I know J-Bomb's excited about that. Now in pre-show action, and I really hate the pre-show thing, but the semifinals of the Women of Honor Championship tournament will take place. Tenille Dashwood is going to go against Sumiya Sakai, and Kelly Klein is going to go against Mayu Iwatani, the finals of which will take place on the main card that same very evening. The reason why I get sketchy about the pre-show thing is I don't understand the premise of having matches on a pre-show. And it's not so much that I don't believe in having matches on a pre-show. I believe that if you're having matches and it's a pre-show, it's not a pre-show. That's part of the show. That's the start of the show. If you're having matches, that's the show. I don't know why they do that. And WWE is horribly guilty of this, talking about how they always have matches on their kickoff show or their pre-show. Listen, you're there, it's the building, it's the same thing, the stage is all there, it's the same show. It's just the show. Stop calling it a pre-show. I don't understand the point of that. I go to independent shows and they do that all the time. God love them. I do. But they're guilty of it too. Where they go, well, the show starts at 8, but we're having a pre-show match at 7:30. I say, okay, well, then your show starts at 7:30. That's how it works. It just means that you have a little intermission between that match and then the next match. Just don't lie to me and tell me it's a pre-show. We're there. Everybody's watching wrestling. It's the show. There is no pre-show. Sorry. So that is the card for Supercard of Honor. I guess if I had to pick them, I usually don't, but I guess I don't see Tenille Dashwood not winning the Women of Honor tournament. It just seems like that's the way to go. She's got the most name. Let's put the name on the title and then use her to build up more people, and for heaven's sake have the Women of Honor title on television and on pay-per-view on a regular basis so that it means something, because every other match that you've had so far has been on the pre-show or has only been viewable on YouTube. I didn't need air quotes for that, but I went with it. It just seems like the right thing to do. If you want your Women of Honor Championship to be taken seriously, put it on the rest of the card with the rest of your shows, with the rest of your matches. Otherwise, if you're going to keep having it on before the main card starts, I gotta stop with the air quotes. If you're going to keep doing that before the main card starts, then really it's not really a main title. It's just this thing you put out there. So invest in it more. Put your chips in. Don't be afraid. It worked out for the E, right? Give it a shot. You may be surprised. Paige against Ibushi. I don't see Paige winning this one, so I'm just going to say Ibushi. I'm sorry. Martinez and Ishii. I think Martinez, it could go either way. I just see that Ishii is going to come out on top on this one. I think Martinez is there to kind of give Ishii a good showing, and at the same time, if he looks tough, Martinez will also look good in the process. 6-man tag titles. I have a feeling that the Young Bucks and Flip Gordon may win these titles so as to further more of the being the elite storyline stuff that's going on, to make it increasingly awkward and to therefore maybe force them to put Flip Gordon on the All In show on September 1st. The TV title, I think Kenny King will retain over Silas Young somehow. The Briscoes, I don't see the Briscoes losing to Tanahashi and Lethal. I just don't see it. And as far as the big two matches, I think, like I said, as much as I wouldn't mind seeing Marty Scurll win the world title over Dalton Castle, I just think that Dalton Castle is who they're investing in, so I don't think that title's going to change hands. I think they're both going to look great in the process, because that's the point of wrestling, is to make the other guy look awesome. But I think Castle's going to walk away with the title. And as far as the main event goes, I don't think it really matters. I don't think there's a clear-cut winner or loser here. I suspect that Kenny may get the win over Cody, but by no means is that the end. You know, it's not like if Kenny defeats Cody, the rest of the crew are going to kick Cody out. I just don't see that being a thing. I think there may be more of a twist to it that will continue beyond Supercard of Honor, but as far as the match itself, I think Kenny comes out on top, but this is by no means the end. I think this is going to stretch all the way into All In, and maybe even continue beyond that. I'm not sure. But All In seems like the proper destination right now. So, let's see. Oh yeah, interesting piece of news. I'm not sure if anybody else caught this, but Major League Wrestling, that's a promotion that's been around for a number of years, which is owned by Court Bauer. Court Bauer worked for the WWE for a little while. I think they almost used him briefly as an on-screen persona, although his name escapes me as to what the gimmick was. But his promotion, Major League Wrestling, just signed a television deal with the beIN Sports Network as part of their regular Friday Night Fury programming. So that show that they're going to do, first of all, I should mention, here's a blast from the past, their commentary team, and still has been for a while, so if you go check out their shows, I actually think that they have some free shows on YouTube worth checking out, so by all means, go check that out if you've got some time to watch some Major League Wrestling. But their commentary team consists of former NXT personality Rich Bikini and former WCW commentator Tony Schiavone. Yes, Tony Schiavone is still commentating wrestling, and he's doing it for Major League Wrestling. I could not believe my eyes and my ears when I watched one of their shows recently after I heard this news. I heard the news, and I immediately got my phone. I'm like, no way. And as soon as I check it out, yep, there he is, clear as day. So they will now have programming on the beIN Sports Network. which means that they could reach an estimated 50 million homes with this new TV deal and be in sports broadcasts in both English and Spanish. Matter of fact, Sports Illustrated talked to Court Bauer, and I've got a little excerpt for you that he spoke about the new television deal, and he said, quote, "We've been in talks since the fall, and they were very impressed with our product. We offer a different presentation because we identify ourselves as a combat sport, but we have a lot more creative freedom than every other combat sport to give the most high-octane presentation." So that's true. I have, in what I've seen of their product, it is more engineered as like a combat sport type presentation, but they do still feature a lot of the names that you're probably very familiar with on the independent scene. Matter of fact, the show I just checked out, and the name escapes me, and I apologize, but the show was started by Matt Riddle and Filthy Tom Lawler, which are former UFC names, both of which are making waves on the independents as we speak. Bauer also revealed in this interview, though, that MLW, they have their World Championship Finals event, a big tournament that concludes on April 12th, but they will also be introducing a middleweight championship and a tag team championship after they crown a world champion on April 12th. So I wouldn't mind knowing your thoughts on that, actually. You can always at me and let me know what you think. Are you familiar with Major League Wrestling? Are you not? Are you interested in another promotion having a big television deal like this, similar to what Ring of Honor has currently? New Japan has it with Access TV. Do you feel that a television deal is important to get your product out there, or are you happy with the streaming services that exist right now, such as the WWE Network, such as New Japan World, such as Club WWN, such as Powerbomb TV? Are you familiar with those type of streaming services? Do you use those? What do you prefer? Let me know. Don't be shy. I can certainly bring it up in next week's show. There are a couple of other things that I wanted to highlight, but really it's not as big a deal right now as we head into WrestleMania week. So if anything, our show coming out of WrestleMania week, there will be a lot to talk about with all the shows heading underway. I mean, it's scary. Every time I pop into Twitter, there's some new match being announced for one of the shows that I very much want to go see that I can't. Whether it be the Progress shows on the 6th and the 7th, whether it be the shows from Game Changer Wrestling, the Joey Janela's Spring Break 2 that starts at 11:55 p.m., or the Matt Riddle's Bloodsport show where there are no ropes and no pinfalls. Matches can only be won by knockout or submission. Matt Riddle headlines that against Low Key. Timothy Thatcher goes... Oh, shit. Sorry, Timothy Thatcher goes against Nick Gage. What was the one that made me lose my mind? Oh, yeah, Chris Dickinson against Dan Severn. Yes, Dan the Beast Severn. Like, these are amazing matches being put together, dream matches of sorts on all these crazy shows. I kind of want to check out another one that's got my attention is Beyond Wrestling's Lit Up show, which basically consists of a male versus female match throughout the entire card. From Jimmy Havoc against Jessica Havoc. Oh, shit. Timothy Thatcher against Tony Storm. I'm going from memory here, guys, so forgive me. But the entire card looks exciting, and I love the concept of male competitor versus female competitor because it is an art form, and there's no reason why we can't all do this together, right? And I find a lot of the intergender matches to be very entertaining, and the female competitors look just as solid as the guys, so there's no reason why we can't do that more often. Obviously the E won't, but they have their own standards and they have their own stuff to deal with. So anyway, a lot of wrestling coming up. Next week's show may not be as exciting, but the week after we come out of WrestleMania week, god damn, that's probably going to be a big show. So we're probably going to have to do another live one, and I'm going to stumble and knock stuff over just like I did before. Until next week, or maybe the week after, I've been Justin Roberge. You guys have been awesome, and I'll see y'all next week. Adios, my friends.